Welcome to World at Work TV. I'm Allison Avalos, and I'm joined today by Chris Dobyns and Melissa Page of the NSA. And we're talking about linkage between behavioral science areas and the work that total rewards professionals do. Chris, can you start off by talking a little bit about what this linkage is that you see in the behavioral sciences area that total rewards professionals may not be paying attention to?
Virtually anything that we do in the total rewards arena ultimately has some sort of a impact from a behavioral perspective on our employees. And so again, if we're looking for optimized outcomes in terms of performance and ultimately from the behaviors that our employees exhibit, the behavioral science disciplines and their application are maybe an undiscovered country for us.
And can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by behavioral sciences and some of the specific aspects there that you think are important to be thinking about?
When we talk about behavioral science, we're not just talking about observed behavior, but also cognitive behavior. So the way people think about things, the way they make decisions, the way they think about their past and use it to interpret events that are happening now. So I think people need to consider that. Also that people are different. So every reward that you give someone, it's not going to work the same for every individual, or it might not work at all. Just because a manager might think that this is the best thing ever, we're going to throw $1,000 at this person, that person might not appreciate that. So really knowing that different individuals appreciate certain things and are motivated by certain things.
We're in a time where total rewards and the environment that we operate in is really transforming. Talk about why you think it's important in this moment for organizations to be thinking about these aspects and the effect of the work they do in the behavioral, with relation to the behavioral sciences.
Looking at what we're doing now at the NSA, sometimes I feel that a lot of unnecessary money is spent. And we could, we're always thinking of ways to save money, save in the rewards area or save in salary. And when you just throw money at people and they might not need it or appreciate it, that's wasteful, So our bonus program, for example, in the past few years, we've given 50% of the workforce a bonus, and it's a pretty small bonus. So if you get that bonus, it's nice to get an extra few bucks, but really when you know that half of the agency got the same thing, it's not really meaningful. So let's get away from that and maybe just give it to 10% of the workforce, because then that 10% will feel more special, and also the 90% that didn't get it will strive to increase their performance. So maybe the next year they'll receive it, rather than it just kind of being a thing that everybody gets.
So talk a little bit about where some of the momentum came from for the NSA to really be thinking about using more of the research and techniques in the behavioral sciences area.
So maybe the best relatively succinct example that we have was where we put a new performance bonus program in place. And again, our belief initially going in was that it was going to effectively elicit much greater acceptance from the workforce. And then much to our surprise, we found that the results that we got actually showed that 3/4 of those that were receiving this under this new performance bonus program were actually completely dissatisfied with the program. And ultimately we teased that out through some focus groups and believe that we got to kind of a causal effect where employees had effectively done some economic mental accounting between the new program and the old program, and because the outcomes were not equivalent between the programs, again, employees viewed that as unfair.
How did the NSA going at building a better understanding of what's going on in the minds of your employees and what they value?
That we do some internal assessments in terms of our employees, through an annual climate survey, of course, that we've repeated every year for the last 7-8 years. Again, so we have something approaching longitudinal data with regard to our employees' expectations, their satisfaction with the work environment, what they're being paid, a whole host of human capital dimensions. So we've acted on some of those aspects in terms of the results we get from that survey. Additionally, that one of the things, again, that we've operationalized maybe more extensively has, again, maybe been just observed instances where, again, we don't have a ready explanation for why we're seeing the reaction or the expectations from our employees that we are seeing. So we've now looked to maybe a different dimension in order to explain some of those employee outcomes that we're seeing or some of the reactions that we're getting in response to some of our total rewards programs.
And we also have a lot of mechanisms for employees to submit questions, suggestions, feedback. We have a campaign called Workforce Matters where people can just go on their desktop, click a icon, submit a suggestion, and it goes up to senior leadership.
There seems to be a strong appetite in the total rewards profession for more information and a greater understanding about the connection to behavioral sciences. Why do you think that is? You've done work in this space. Where do you think other organizations might have a gap?
So I would go back to the same issue with regard to awareness and observation. So again, I would have to say that maybe if not the majority, but at least the predominant numbers of instances where we have made interventions, that they've actually been precipitated by simple observation, awareness that maybe some of these behavioral scientific techniques are out there and available, and they in fact may be some of the explanations for why we're seeing, again, the results that we're seeing from, again, some of the interventions that we have put in place in the past.
So taking that a little further, what do you suggest for organizations who are wanting to take a closer look at this area and start to better understand but also apply some of these techniques?
So I would say probably initially anchor some foundational knowledge. There's a lot of research that is available, both in the literature. I know the association has done some amount of research. But again, I think it all ultimately goes back to, again, creating some sort of an awareness, both with HR professionals, total rewards professionals, and your management, so that they're aware of potential explanations for why we're seeing, again, results and outcomes from our workforce that we can't otherwise explain.
Leadership really needs to be open to it. Having it centralized too, so a lot of people come up with a lot of different ideas, but having a place where those can all come together and then push them forward, push them up.
For organizations pursuing work in this space, what lessons learned or cautions do you have?
Ethics. We mentioned that in our presentation. So, I'm a psychologist, and we have an ethics code because we're taught how to shape behavior. And that's a powerful ability, a powerful tool. And when managers do that, which they should shape, but they shouldn't manipulate. So just being cognizant of the power of your suggestions to your employees, because you want to do things in the best interest of the employees and the organization, not just for yourself.
Don't wait until you have everything perfect. So again, you read comments that people say, well, it's better to maybe move forward when we've got 70–80% of the picture in place. But again, literally, if you wait for it to be perfect, in all likelihood, you're never going to take action. Again, that's not to say that you shouldn't take action, assess the results, and be prepared to modify or change maybe some of what you did previously and replace it with something that works better.
Thank you both. For World at Work TV, I'm Allison Avalos.